Hello again. It's the SharePoint experts from Agility, and today we're here to bring you another tip to help you achieve transformational results in your business. Today's tip, we'll start with some tips for SharePoint adoption, and I'll go into top 10 features to help you get started and get your users excited about SharePoint. And finally, I'll end with a couple of bonus features. So here are top 10 tips for SharePoint adoption. I recommend identifying power users and building SharePoint advocates. One of the best ways to build SharePoint advocates is to show them the art of the possible. We use envisioning sessions, demo sessions, playgrounds, and proof of concepts for the purpose of showing people the art of the possible. Showing people the art of the possible will be key to getting organizational buy-in. I'm a huge fan of training early and training often, whether that's one-on-one sessions by people calling the help desk, specific training for individual departments, office hours, or brown bag sessions. I recommend SharePoint as a tool to make people's jobs easier. People care about what is in it for them. When you're trying to get people to adopt SharePoint, it's key to use email or social to point them to key apps, forms, workflows, etc. that they can use in SharePoint to get their job done. I'm a big fan in implementing SharePoint in phases. Most folks can only adopt so much change at once. Of course, when you're implementing SharePoint, I recommend making feedback easy, whether that's an email to the site owner or regular surveys out of SharePoint on how you're doing. I recommend keeping SharePoint organized. If it's not easy to use things, people aren't going to want to use SharePoint. And then finally, customize SharePoint based on your user's business process. I'm going to start you off with top 10 cool features to get you started in SharePoint. I'm going to go over calendars, interacting with SharePoint lists from Excel, charts through Excel services, OneDrive, both as a tool for syncing SharePoint libraries as well as desktop backups. I'm going to go over forms, workflows. I'm going to talk about manage metadata and how it makes search easy. I'm going to talk about a cool Word feature called Quick Parts. And finally, I'll end with views. After these top 10 features, I'll actually leave you with 14 bonus features. Number one feature to get you excited about SharePoint is shared team calendars. I think most of you might be aware that SharePoint is tightly integrated with Microsoft Office. So in this case, if your users are using Microsoft Outlook to keep their calendars, they can sync their calendar with Outlook. And of course, they can create views. In this particular case, they can show a view of my calendar, the HR team calendar, the BD team calendar, or they can overlay all three calendars on a single web page. Number two feature to get your users excited about SharePoint is interacting with a SharePoint list from Excel or connecting an Excel workbook to Microsoft SharePoint. So in this particular case, I can have somebody that works on an Excel workbook from their desktop, and they could simply go into the Excel ribbon, click on Refresh All, and keep those changes in sync with a Microsoft SharePoint list. Number three feature, charts from Excel services. So I might be working on an Excel workbook. I might save that to Microsoft SharePoint. But of course, all the executives want to see is a cool graph or a bar chart, letting them know how we're doing and have the ability to drill down and look at the actual content in the Excel file if they wished. Number four feature, huge believer in OneDrive for Business as a way to sync your SharePoint libraries. So any SharePoint library with less than 5,000 items, I can sync that down to my local PC and work offline while I'm on a plane. Great feature in SharePoint 2013 or Office 365. Of course, I can also apply OneDrive for Business and the sync tool in my personal site, and I can replace the My Documents folder on my desktop with OneDrive for Business. I now sync everything that I save on my PC to the cloud, which is great. I can get to my files on vacation. And of course, if anything happens to my laptop, I can simply grab a new laptop and sync all my files back down to the new laptop. Number 6, one of my favorite features in SharePoint, it's forms. So whether you're using the old school InfoPath forms, your basic list forms that come with SharePoint, or one of my favorites, Nintex, which also has an awesome mobile forms feature. A huge believer in using forms typically as a start to a workflow. Of course, workflows is my next slide. One of the most basic forms of a workflow is the alert feature that's built into the Microsoft SharePoint ribbon. For years, my team has built workflows in SharePoint Designer, but of course, Nintex is certainly the new app in SharePoint that allows people to develop forms and workflows directly in the browser, and in fact, even allow power users to edit their own workflows. Manage Metadata is our number 8 feature to get your users excited about SharePoint. So if you're still using folders in Microsoft SharePoint, please stop. It's time to use Manage Metadata. In this case, we're using Manage Metadata in order to tag documents in our SharePoint Center of Excellence. In this example, different versions of SharePoint, allowing it to make it easy to search and find the documents that our users are looking for. Number 9 feature in Microsoft SharePoint to get your users excited is a feature in Microsoft Word known as Quick Parts. So you can see here information in the Word document information panel, or it could be information that started in a SharePoint form. This information can be used, this metadata can be used to auto-generate documents such as proposals, employee reviews, offer letters, meeting agendas, status reports, and of course, one of my favorite, contracts. Views, huge fan of views. I told you I love metadata. I do love metadata. And of course, if I have metadata on documents, I can use views to sort on any particular metadata. In this case, I'm sorting at the bottom on expired contracts. I can see in this case, I have one document that is expired. And once I create a sort on that, I can create a view to allow my users to use that sort at a later date. 14 bonus features that I didn't yet cover. Of course, version control, key feature in SharePoint allowing me to go back and restore to previous versions. Another exciting feature, which is co-authoring, allows multiple people to work on the same document simultaneously. So if you're still emailing documents as attachments, please stop. It's time to use hyperlinks, whether they're in email or some other form, to allow people to directly access the same copy of the document. I already mentioned that SharePoint is tightly integrated with Office, which of course allows me to use features like track changes in Word and keep that in sync with SharePoint. If I assign tasks, I can sync those tasks with Outlook. If I'm an MS Project user and I'd like to sync those MS Project files with a project web part, I can do that. Already talked about notifications. One of the most exciting features that our users are using in SharePoint today is electronic signatures. Of course, there's several third-party products that integrate with SharePoint. One of my favorites is DocuSign. External database connections via BCS or web services are huge in SharePoint. So this allows me to create a dashboard, possibly with information from an Excel workbook, a CRM system, and my general ledger. I already mentioned Excel surveys and the ability to use various survey methods in SharePoint in order to collect information. Related items and tasks are huge, basically using the ability to sort those tasks. And then finally, the send to command. If I want to create a workflow that allows me to work on documents in one place and then automatically publish that document to another place via an approval workflow, the send to command is a key feature used in that workflow. I want to thank you for allowing us to bring you another tip to help you achieve transformational results in your business. If you need additional help, have questions, training, or want to suggest a topic for a future video, please email us at info@xgility.com.